Well, good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve wishing you a very pleasant evening, and I hope you're all feeling fine. Here we are in week 10 of the lockdown, and I don't know whether you enjoyed the last series of videos that I put up on my channel, but they were all kind of little projects that have been sitting around waiting to be finished off, or some editing to be done on them so I could actually post them. And so I know they might seem a little bit out of character, but they are other interests and pastimes that I have outside of my political and economic interests in the world today. And so here we are in an unprecedented situation. I'm getting tired of hearing that word, but I'll use it again because it is actually so apt. And I found an interesting article here by Michael Snyder from the Economic Collapse blog, and it is 18 signs that we are in for a heck of an economic year. And this is going to be the other side of the outbreak, because stopping work, stopping the world for 10 weeks is something that just cannot happen in our world. The particular world that we have built, this just-in-time servicing, globalism type of network, everything leans on everything else, and our supply chains have become so narrow and so long and so integrated that once the dominoes start to fall, they start to fall all the way along the supply chain. And of course, with a lot of these things that have to keep moving, you just can't stop them. You know, once you go through that stopping process, it might take weeks for them to get going again, if at all. And what I'm thinking of here now is the food processing, meat processing, but all of the small businesses, you know, myself included. I've been shut down, complete 100% for 10 weeks, and yet my ground expenses have not changed. I still have my rent to pay, my hydro, my heating costs, my water bill, everything that's associated with that business, insurance, that kind of thing, is still ongoing, and yet it has basically generated zero income. Now, I do realize that I am getting a benefit from the government to hold me over, but that benefit basically just covers my ground expenses with a little bit left over. And then I have all of my other day-to-day expenses. You know, I have to eat, I have to pay my mortgage here, I have insurance, I have property taxes, I have a car to run, I have a car loan. And, you know, whether I should be or shouldn't be in debt at my age is academic at this point. That's a situation that many of us find ourselves in. And so we are going to see, I believe, a wave of bankruptcies. Actually, I read another article the other day predicting a biblical wave of bankruptcies over the horizon. And I believe there will be a wave of bankruptcies as people just cannot make ends meet, and loans start coming undone, deals start coming undone. But it's not just what's happening right now. You know, even when they say going back to normal, you know, people have put all of their plans on the shelf. Okay, I am planning no further ahead than a week or two down the road, because I can't see more than a week or two down the road. And it will take me so long to catch up to my position, because, you know, of course, they've blown up my credit cards to cover some of the bases, and I'm just hoping and praying that we are going to go back to work quickly. Now, we're talking maybe the middle of June, but even when that happens, do you really think I'm going to go back to my old spending habits? No, it's going to be all hands on deck to start paying down some of the situation I found myself in. I got some repairs to do to the house here. They may get done, but other than that, everything else will be on absolute hold. There will be no eating out. There will be no lace and finery whatsoever. No icing on the cake for the foreseeable future. It may take me a year, maybe 2 years, to unwind the damage that has been done in 10 weeks. Because, of course, you see, when you borrow money to cover a base, you pay back interest on that money. I mean, that's obvious. We all know that. But, you know, so it's not just the burden of borrowing the money, it's the burden of paying for the cost of borrowing on top of everything else in a situation that, it was a circumstance in which over I had no control and everyone had no control over. This has been forced upon us. And I will say once again that the people who have forced this upon us, not one of them has lost a day's pay. Okay, not one of them has lost a day's pay. And you know what? I read an article in the Globe and Mail. I'm just going to put you up the pertinent section right here. But the WHO is now praising the Swedish model. Now you'll remember Sweden did shut down. And when you look at the graph of what happened in Sweden, they are on the road to recovery. They're a little slower, I will agree. But the up and down really doesn't look a whole heck of a lot different than anyone else's who did really well during this situation, okay? So the WHO, the World Health Organization, are praising and recommending the Swedish model of, guess what? Just use a little common sense. Just use a little common sense. But the fallout, as I say, the fallout for this is going to be absolutely incredible. Anyway, let's flip over to this article and we'll go through, it's quite short, and we'll go through these 18 reasons. Now, I'm not going to open all of the links, but I will link this blog below, and when you open it up, you will be able to open up all the links that show the newspaper article that reports on these particular findings. Okay, so here we go. And this is from the Economic Collapse blog by Michael Snyder. 18 signs that we are facing a record-breaking economic implosion in 2020. In just 6 weeks, the entire global economy has completely come apart. All over the world, we are seeing numbers fall faster than we have ever before, and the outlook for the rest of the year is exceedingly bleak. Fear of the outbreak is going to paralyze global trade for the foreseeable future, and the lockdowns in some nations will last for many months to come. Here in the United States, some states are attempting to make efforts to reopen, but in most instances that will involve multiple stages. Meanwhile, tens of millions of Americans have already lost their jobs, much of the population has already run through their meagre savings, and financial institutions are becoming extremely tight with their money. Even if CV disappeared tomorrow, our momentum would still take us into an economic depression. But of course, this isn't going to disappear anytime soon. After 9/11, our society evolved into an anti-terror state, and CV is going to permanently alter our society as well. So anyone that was hoping for a quick return to normal can forget it, because normal is about to be completely redefined. And now, I know this is about the US, but the figures that came out today for the unemployment are very, very similar to the US. The US had 30 million in the last few weeks, and Canada has had 3 million, which is, we're about a 10-to-1 ratio between Canada and the US. The pace at which economic conditions have deteriorated in recent weeks has been absolutely breathtaking, and the numbers just keep getting worse and worse. The following are 18 signs that we are facing a record-breaking economic implosion in 2020. Number 1. According to economists surveyed by the Wall Street Journal, the April jobs report will show that the unemployment rate in the United States is now above 16%. Number 2. US manufacturing orders just crashed by the most ever. Number 3. US gasoline consumption just dropped to the lowest level ever recorded. Number 4. Light vehicle sales in the US just fell to the lowest level that we've seen since the early 70s. Number 5. The government program that was supposed to get small businesses through the crisis has been a tremendous failure. According to the CNBC SurveyMonkey Small Business Survey released Monday, which surveyed 2,200 small business owners across America, while the $660 billion Paycheck Protection Program was instituted to give them a lifeline through the CV and economic shutdown, only 13% of the 45% who applied for the PPP were approved. Number 6. The coming meat shortages are already here. According to the New York Post, Costco is now rationing meat, and Kroger is warning customers of very serious supply problems. Costco on Monday said it would be limiting customers to just 3 packages of meat per shopper, while Kroger supermarkets posted an alert on the meat section of its website warning that it may have limited inventory due to high demand. Grocers have been bracing for a run on meat in mid-May as major meat processing plants, including Tyson Foods, have been forced to shut down production. But the shortages appear to have come earlier than expected, as consumers worried about the meat shortage may have been stocking up, experts say. Number 7. Global smartphone shipments were down 11.7% in the first quarter compared to a year ago. That represents the fastest drop on record. Number 8. Hong Kong just recorded the worst economic contraction in the city's entire history. Number 9. US consumer spending was down 7.6% during the first quarter of 2020. Number 10. American Airlines posted a loss of $2.2 billion during the first quarter of 2020. Number 11. It looks like retail giants Neiman Marcus, J.Crew and JCPenney are all headed for bankruptcy. Number 12. Fox Business is reporting that Hertz Rent-A-Car, yes, that Hertz is preparing to file for bankruptcy due to plunging car rental ridership. Number 13. Gold's Gym filed for bankruptcy on Monday. 14. Edmunds is projecting that auto sales in the United States this month will be down by more than half compared to April 2019. Number 15. In Mexico, manufacturing activity is falling at the fastest pace ever recorded. The following comes from Zero Hedge. While few have lofty expectations for economic performance with the global economy still largely shut down, what is happening in Mexico is simply unprecedented. Here are some striking observations detailing the unprecedented economic collapse of the southern US neighbor, courtesy of Goldman. See what I mean about unprecedented? It is just everywhere. Look, twice in one sentence. Business confidence declined sharply in April, the 7th consecutive monthly decline, with the index now sitting deep within pessimist territory. The manufacturing and services PMIs also fell sharply in April and are now at the lowest levels on record. 16. More than 30 million Americans have already lost their jobs, and economists are projecting that millions more will lose their jobs in the weeks ahead. Number 17. In March, US home sales declined by double-digit percentages in every region of the country. And this is really going to hurt people who have been using their homes like an ATM and have been taking out equity as house prices increased. These people will be in serious trouble. Number 18. White House economic advisor Ken Hassett is warning that US GDP could fall by up to 30% during the second quarter of 2020. For investors, the good news is that stock prices have bounced back quite a bit after the initial crash, and many market optimists are hoping that this Fed-fueled rally will keep on rolling. But others are warning that this is a trap for bullish investors, and Kevin Smith is openly telling everyone that this could be the last chance to sell before another huge move downward. The stock market may be flashing some ridiculously bullish signals, but hedge fund bear Kevin Smith is sticking by his prediction that the Dow and S&P 500 are on the verge of a Great Depression-level crash. In fact, the Creascat Capital founder warns this is your last chance to sell before the impending collapse. We shall see what happens, but for the moment, the financial markets are doing their best to try and defy economic reality. Unfortunately, economic reality is hitting most Americans like a ton of bricks right now. We are in the middle of the greatest spike in unemployment that the United States has ever seen by a wide margin, and most of the jobs that have been lost are never coming back. And as bad as things already are, the truth is, this is just the beginning. And I do believe that this is just the beginning. A whole lot more pain is on the way, and it's going to shake our nation to the core. Our economic and financial bubbles lasted far longer than they should have, but now fear of CV has burst them all, and it isn't going to be possible to reinflate them this time around. And I'm going to make a bold prediction here, but that Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, gold and silver are going to fly. When you get into situations like this where nobody knows what's going to happen next, and really we do not know now, we're in the unknown zone, and we have absolutely no idea how this is going to fall out or play out for the next 2 or 3 years. And so hang on to your hats, and this is going to be a hell of a ride in 2020. All the indicators are there, and we were in trouble. We had not even started to recover from 2007. Okay, in fact the figures for the present that created the 2007 situation have gotten worse. Countries and banks and institutions and hedge funds are even more indebted than they were in 2007. So we're going into a really, I mean, it's just a desperate situation in really bad shape. It would be tough enough if you had everything battened down and all of your sails unfurled and ready to go into a good, strong headwind. But we're not. We're limping along. You know, we're bailing as we go. So yes, it's going to be a tenuous year, ladies and gentlemen, and prepare yourself accordingly. Okay, so if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe below, and please share. YouTube is still messing around with these algorithms and shutting down things that they do not like to hear or that they feel are not important. So please share, that's very, very important. And in the meantime, this is Hound Dog signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we'll talk very, very shortly. You take care now. See ya. Bye.